you're going to be working on a really fun project this week, and that is going to deal with both surrealism, and surrealism is a style of art that deals with fantasy and dreams and things like that. So there's really no limitations to the things you can do, and we're going to talk about Salvador Dali a little bit this week. And he was an incredible artist, and when it comes to fantasy and dreams, that's what almost every painting he ever did was about. And Photoshop lends itself to that style of art like no other medium possibly could. So you're going to be able to just do whatever comes to mind this week, everything we've learned, and some new things as well. So I want to introduce you to some tools. I don't want to do an entire project. Doing an entire project, as you know, can take hours. And I do want to show you some things, but I'm not going to necessarily complete them. I simply want you to see what different tools do, so that if it's a tool that you want to try, you're going to feel like it's something that you have to your disposal. So one of the first tools I want to show you, this is a single picture. I got this picture off of Pixabay, and so far nothing has been done to this photograph. It came in exactly like this, so I haven't done anything to this photograph yet. I can certainly add a lot to this photograph, but right now I have not done anything to it. So there's a tool over here, and you'll see typically the dodge tool is what you will see at the top, and the burn tool is below it, and then there's something called the sponge tool. So I want to show you what these different tools do. So if I start with the first one, which of course is the dodge tool, and I say want to choose highlights, the dodge tool is going to brighten things for me. It's gonna, if I have it set on highlights, it's going to really bring out some highlights. And I'm simply using a brush on this, and the size of the brush is 65. I could change the type of brush I use for this. It could be any type of brush, but generally just a normal brush with a 0% hardness is fine. It's the size you may decide you need to adjust. But you can see how bright I've gotten the moon by simply going over this with the dodge tool. Now I do have it set right now on highlights. If I had it set on midtones, I would be pulling out more midtones. So say in the sky over here, I wanted to see some more of those midtones, I might use the dodge tool in this area to see if I can't bring out some midtones. Now let's assume that I want to go for some more shadows. Then I would set this for shadows, and if I came over to say this area, the dodge tool would still lighten, but it would accentuate some of the shadows more than it did when I used it in the other ways. Okay, now I want to show you the tool below it, and I'm going to show you the dodge tool in some other ways as well. You'll see that it's very interesting. So this is my burn tool, and with this one things get darker, especially when I have it set for shadows. So I'm just going to do this part of the window, and again I like to do it all in one sweep, because as you go over it you actually can make it get darker and darker. So if I wanted this window to appear darker, and I might even want to go over the window itself, like maybe I would even want to go over the this part of my window as well, it makes everything darker. Now when I switch that to midtones and say I go into this area, you can see how it's a little bit different. I have the exposure set for both on 100% so that you can see the difference. Okay, And if I were to set it for highlights, it would still get darker, okay? But the highlights would stand out a little more, okay? So these two tools, the burn tool and the dodge tool, have a way of changing colors for you. So you can use these tools if you feel like the colors in some of your pictures need some work or need some tone, okay? So I'll stop with those tools. Experiment with them. When you don't like something, naturally you can erase it. Now, because I did it right on the photograph, it became part of that background. Now, if I didn't want to keep those items, I would simply go back to where I started. You see, dodge tool, dodge tool. If I went back to the very beginning, this is where I started, okay? And this is with no changes to that photograph. I could have added a layer. And if I add a layer and then do those things, the nice part about adding the layer before I begin, I take that back. There we go. Okay, so we're right on the background here. Okay, so no, we would not be able to use a layer for that. You would do that directly on your photo or directly on your layer, whatever it is that you want to make the change to. So I'm going to delete that, and I'm going to, I might as well just go ahead and let that moon appear lighter. It's not going to hurt anything. So the next tool that I want to show you is going to require that I bring something in here. So let's see. I found a pumpkin. This is an interesting, I'm going to bring this pumpkin in. This is the pumpkin I'm going to work on. Okay. But there is another pumpkin I want to open because I sort of like this pumpkin, the way the face is. And I want to show you how you can create a face that you might like, you know, for a pumpkin. So the first thing I want to do is just grab this pumpkin. So I'll start with the object selection tool, see what happens. I got the entire pumpkin, that's wonderful. I kind of like the log as well. So since I like the log as well, I'm going to click this little button here, and that will allow me to add on to it. And now if I start to, if I adjust this to quick selection tool now, and I start to click on this, it's going to add it to my selection. And I want to try to get this entire piece. Now, of course, I'm going to have to redo the pumpkin. It didn't want to, when I switched from select subject to quick selection, it decided that it was going to start over. So that's why I had to do the pumpkin over again. But in any case, I've got the entire pumpkin now. I'm going to drag the pumpkin to my work and bring it in, okay? And I'll probably make it bigger, but before I do anything else, I just want to get rid of this, so I'm going to X out of it. The other thing I think I would like to do is I'm going to arrange my workspace 2 up vertical, and this is simply so that I could kind of get a sense of this little pumpkin's face, because I think I want something similar, so we'll see. Right, so I'm going to enlarge my pumpkin. I'm going to go to transform. I'm going to scale, and just make him a little bigger. Okay, so for now I'm going to slide him over. I don't really need to see him yet. All right, now my pumpkin, I could do a little bit of burnishing to him. I would probably want to pull out shadows to I'm going to use the burn tool. Now that darkens it quite a bit. Not sure if I want it that dark. So I'm going to go back. Let's try midtones. Okay, so that's a little too light. Let's see. Again, too light. And too dark. So I'm not really getting a good color here. What I could actually do if I want this pumpkin to be richer and it's not working using the burn tool or the dodge tool for this, I can certainly do a layer adjustment to it. And I can do this by, again, going to layer, new adjustment layer. I'll probably work on, do I want to use bright? I'll use hue saturation. And really it's the saturation that I really want to increase. I want that orange to be much brighter. So I've just made that a little bit brighter. If I want to focus on, say, like that, like the stem, if it seems too yellow right now, I'll click on yellows and see if I can't alter that somewhat. But that seems like a good color to me. And if I chose to go back to my burn tool and go over this now, I could darken this some more. You can see it's getting a little bit darker. Okay. And it's usually the shadows that I want to enhance. Okay, so if we want to put a face on this pumpkin, the first thing I'd need to do is draw some of these features. So the only reason I picked this pumpkin was because I thought he sort of had an interesting little face. And I'm using the pen tool, and all I'm really doing is clicking, and every time I click in a new position, it kind of creates the shape that I want to make. So I've made this shape, okay, and it says here shape 1, and I guess I'll call it eye left. I will kind of click away from it. Whoops. Just click Control Z if you find that something happens. If I click on another layer and then I go back, that should lock it in. So now I've got this shape, but I want the shape to have sort of a rough look to it. So I'm going to go to Filter, I'm going to go to Distort, I'm going to go to Ripple. Okay, now it asks me if I want to rasterize or convert to a smart object. I'm going to rasterize, okay? And you guys know that when we rasterize, we're able to add gradients to things and we're able to do things. So here is the object in this little box now that I've rasterized it. And it's set for large, and large is what I want to keep it at. Now, if you can't see very well, enlarge it some more so that you can see what's happening here. But it's set at 156, and you can see there's a lot of ragged edges to this. and maybe I don't want quite as, maybe I don't want quite as many ragged edges. If not, I can bring it in a little bit. Maybe I only need to say go with like a 57. So I'm gonna click OK. And if I zoom in on that eye, you'll see that it's a lot more ragged looking than it was initially. Okay, so what I'll do is I will go ahead and start adding some changes to it to give it some depth. So I'll start with Bevel Emboss. Okay, and let me zoom out a little bit. Okay, and you can see that when I hit Bevel Emboss, it automatically takes on the look that there's like some kind of depth there. So my settings right now are set at Emboss, Chisel Hard. I have it set at 282. The size is 27. Okay, I can adjust that. It could be bigger, it could be smaller. You know, you decide like how big you want it to be. If you soften it, I like it kind of soft because after all it is a pumpkin. The luminosity is set on white, okay, and that's the highlight. The shadow is set for hard light, and the color that I've selected for the hard light is sort of a deep orangey brown. Okay, so if I leave it at that, there's my left eye. He's ready to go. I could add an outer glow to him if I want to. If I did add an outer glow, I would most likely want it to be a light color, a white of some sort. You can kind of look and see, you know, what works for you. Do you like something more of a yellow? Do you want something light, you know? So, but it would certainly give it a little bit of a glow. And if you feel that you can't see it enough and you want it to be more noticeable, you can spread it out. You can bring it back in. You know, sometimes the changes are very subtle, and I like to kind of play with some of them just to see if I'm getting what I want. Okay, so there's a bit of an outer glow there. Again, I have 27, 28. I have a soft yellow now. If I were to change precise, it would probably have more of a linear look to it. So I'm gonna leave it at this. I'm not gonna do any more to this eye. I'm gonna let it go like that. All right, so I need another eye. There's my pen tool. So when I look at that eye, let's see, it sort of comes down, kind of goes across, up, comes up, comes back down, comes down, goes up again, and kind of ends right about there. And once those places meet, if I'm happy with the shape, I just need to move away from it for a second. Okay, so that's going to be my second eye. So my second eye, let me name it, is eye right. Okay, and again, I want to go to my filter. I want to go to Distort. I want to go to Ripple. Okay, I need to rasterize. I want to see the eye. Okay, it's probably already set for the last thing I used, so I could keep it as it was, or if I feel like it needs to be even more raggedy, I could increase it. I had it at 57. Maybe this time I'll increase it a little bit. Okay, and again I'll hit OK. Now that's a little raggedy. Um, I think I'll go back on that a little bit. I'm gonna go back, hit that filter again, distort, ripple, rasterize, and I think my original was like 56, so I might make it a little higher, but maybe not that much higher. So I'm going for 66 should be fine. So we're going with 66, and you can see now it has some raggedness to it. Again, I'm gonna double click on the eye, and when I do that, my layer style menu pops up. I'm going to go to Bevel Emboss, and once again you see the Bevel Emboss has kind of been placed there for me. If you double click on Bevel Emboss, you can see exactly what the settings were. The settings were emboss, chisel hard, depth of 282. It's set for down. If it were set for up, my my shadowing would be on the top, which would not work. So I'm going to put it down again. Maybe this time though, I don't want the shadowing to be on that side. Maybe I want it to be on the opposite side. However, when I do that, I kind of lose a little bit of what I had before. So I'm gonna do it a little bit so that it's more on the right. Okay, so now I still have some shadowing there, but it's more on the right side. Okay, I'm gonna leave the rest of the settings the same. What other items? We had our outer glow. Okay, did we do a drop shadow before? I believe we did. Now there is something else I could try, a gradient overlay. You know, now clearly that would not be the gradient overlay I would do. You see I have a gradient when I double clicked on gradient overlay. I might not want to have any deep colors in my gradient. In fact, maybe I would only want, would I want a deep orange in it? I might want a little bit of white in it. I might add a white there and see what type of gradient this would provide. And keep in mind, I would go back, I would start with normal, and you can kind of see the change that it made. Okay, and each time I try a different blending mode, it changes a little bit. Lighten is actually very similar to the way it was initially, and you don't really see the gradient. That kind of gives a nice brightness to it. And again, I can change the opacity and see if it changes anything. That is what I get with hard light. There's a little bit of orange in the middle. Vivid light. Vivid light is kind of nice. It does look very bright with the vivid light. What happens with pin light? Not really crazy about that one. Not crazy about hue. Definitely don't like luminosity. So I think it was vivid light that caught my eye because it just looks so warm in there now. And I have the gradient set at radial, and I could change it to angle. You notice not a lot is changing. If I would want to see any changes, I would most likely have to arrange. I would have to change the scale. But the truth is, I'm And I can reverse it too if I want to, like if I want the brightness to be more in the center. It's set on diamond right now. What happened when I was on linear? The changes are subtle. And that's why when I work on these projects with you, I think to some degree doing just partial is probably good enough, because you're going to be sitting here doing this on your own, and you're going to be experimenting. So, I mean, clearly I need to get a nose in here. So I'm going to make myself a little triangle. I'm going to go up to my filter. Let me hurry up and name this nose so that I don't lose track of what I'm doing. Filter, distort. I'm using ripple, but there are definitely other types of distortions that you can do. I need to see this, so right now I can't see it, and that's probably because there it is, it's very little. I'm going to enlarge it now. Right now it's nothing more than just a triangle, and we're just giving it a bit of a jaggedness so it looks a little more realistic. When I hit OK, you can see the jaggedness to it. When I click on it, double click on the layer style opens right up. I know I used Bevel Emboss in the last ones, and because the settings are already set, like once you set them once, it's automatically going to go back to that last setting. So that's what makes it very easy to do. What did we add? I did add the gradient. Do I think I need the gradient overlay? I really don't think I do. Do I want a little bit of an outer glow to it? Sure. Do I want a little bit of a drop shadow to it? Sure. And the last thing is the mouth. And so again, I'll take my pen tool and I might do my mouth a little bit different. I might just do something that takes up a lot of his face, but just sort of has a more of a zigzag effect. Don't be concerned if at the top it's not doing what you want it to eventually do, because every time you make a new point, it's going to change direction. So I can bring this up maybe one more time, give him one more tooth, and I could actually keep him like that. That seems like a good enough smile. And so again, I'll click away, click somewhere else just to hold that shape. Now that I've got that shape in place, again, I'll click on, make sure I'm on it, and there it is. That's the mouth. Let me name it so I don't lose track. So there's the mouth. I'm going to go to filter. I'm going to go to distort. I'm going to go to ripple. You know, maybe this time, instead of using ripple, just to see what it would look like if I used another distort, maybe this time I'll use wave. Okay, I'm still going to rasterize. And now this one is not giving me an image to look at, but I know that changing these settings is going to make changes. So let me, yeah, I don't like not being able to see it. Okay, we're gonna go back to, I'm gonna hit Control Z, and I'm just going to go back to ripple, which I had before, and rasterize. I liked the way this one worked better. Not to say that that other one doesn't have its purposes. It's just that right now I unfortunately can't explain to you why it was doing that. So that's something I'm going to have to look into. All right, so it needs to come down quite a bit before. Oh, we're in the negatives now. Okay. Before, I think we were set at like 56. So if I were to get, somewhere around there, I'm at 74 right now. When I click OK, you can see there's some roughness to it. And now I can go back in, I can double click. And when I double click, I get layer style, bevel and emboss. Whoops. Okay. Now I'll probably change the direction of my bevel emboss. Right now, the direction is down. I think I'm going to want it up for this area. Might soften a bit. Maybe the size doesn't need to be quite so big, because you figure when you're talking about perspective, you're seeing things at a different angle, so what we actually see inside the mouth might not be the same as what we would see if we were looking at the mouth at a different angle. So and I'm just testing out like some of the different options that I have here in terms of the contour of this, and you can test them out and see what you think, like which one works best. Like this one is kind of interesting because it gives me a little bit of shadow both top and bottom. And so I do think that it's just one of those things where you have to experiment and decide, which one do you think works best. I think this gloss contour works best. Now, do I need to change any angles? Let's see, I can change some angles a little bit if I feel that that's necessary. I mean, I want to see some of the depth, so I might go about here. All right, before we did choose the gradient overlay, and again, you have to click twice. Now, I'm not sure I like it for the mouth, so I'm going to remove it. Let me get back to Bevel Emboss because I feel like I lost a little bit of the color I had before. Let's check contour real quick. That is okay. I might deepen some colors. Okay. All right. Okay, so Bevel Emboss we've got in there. We still haven't added our drop shadow, which we're going to add. There's the outer glow. I'm still going to try an inner shadow and see. I don't need it to be that dark. Kind of interesting. I mean, I could go with the yellow, keep it very bright, so it does look like, you know, there's light shining in there. But again, I keep going back to this. I know it's set for chisel hard. Maybe I need that depth to be a little bit. Nope. All right. I'm going to change that color a little bit. So what I want it to do is I want it to have a deeper color. Similar to the one that I had. That one's not too bad. Okay. Okay. So if I back away from this, let's just get rid of this for, get rid of that. Get rid of that. Okay. So I have my pumpkin now, okay? And I can certainly darken things. Like right now, if this whole thing is just too bright, I can kind of go back over the pumpkin himself, darken that layer. I can even go into this with more color. So right now I'm using this burn tool to try to make his face a little bit orangey, a little orangier. And the shadows are starting to come out a little more too. If I really want this to